this isn't an issue, they're making it up. And, you know, now I want them to come and stand with me any night and say, I want you to meet these parents. But they're why we're here, and I want to make sure that we recognize that the real heroes of this story are the parents getting up every day and taking care of these children that should have had perfectly healthy lives. So can everybody that has a vaccine-injured family member just please stand up just for a moment? Would you?
Too, Lucy counts.
Well, I just lost the microphone, but here we go. This is shocking. I'm sure to those of you that didn't just stand up, this is a tragedy taking place in a free world. And one thing you don't realize is these parents don't only suffer one of the most difficult situations you can imagine, your healthy child disappearing from you. When you bring it up with your pediatrician, oftentimes they'll say, would you like to speak to a therapist about that? You seem very upset. And if you continue to ask questions about the vaccine, and I really believe all this started with the vaccine, they start asking if maybe you're not in a mental state to be raising this child. Sometimes Child Protective Services is called. We just met a mother the other night who had 2 vaccine-injured children, destroyed her family, lost her husband. Eventually her kids hit puberty and couldn't be controlled anymore. She rebuilt her life, was in a hospital giving birth to a new child, and they came to take the child away. And she says, wait, where are you going? She says, I'm not. They're like, oh, we have to vaccinate your baby. She's like, no, you're not going to. I have 2 vaccine-injured children. Like, no, we have to take it. And she says, no, it's not going to happen. They called Child Protective Services. A mother that's just given birth, exhausted, just wants to hold her baby. The first day, it's taking its first breaths. And now she has to get clear in her mind, answer the questions from a Child Protective Service agent, and make sure that she doesn't lose that baby right there that she's holding. This is happening in the United States of America. It's time to wake up. It's getting worse and worse, and we have to stand up and realize that this is supposed to be a country for the people, by the people, not a country for the pharmaceutical industry to force their products upon us and then threaten us if we happen to think, you know what, that's not for me. We're supposed to be able to have that choice. Anyway, it's an honor to be here tonight, and it's really an honor to be joined by a couple of really wonderful doctors, especially, this is the first time I've got to see Dr. Rachel Ross since we did the interview that we did back in Los Angeles. And I left that interview, I mean, I just want to say at the end of that, that statement that you made, I went up to Rachel and I said, you know, this is going to probably cause a lot of trouble for you. And she said, just send me the transcripts so I know what they're going to be coming at me with. And I mean, I was in tears when I left. That's a real hero. So, so let's, tell me about what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a pleasure to be here. Thanks for even asking me to look at the data, because, you know, this journey started with Dell and I were working on the talk show together, and he initially approached me about, in California at the time, this was when they were originally starting the conversation around mandatory vaccinations, and he and I were both in the same boat, like, how could this possibly be something? Well, the more we started talking about vaccine injury. He sent me some data, some things to look at, and, you know, my heart just started getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I don't think it was until I really got a chance to look online and listen to some stories from some parents who had watched their child go through and become injured by the vaccines and the outcomes of it, that I really understood how big of a deal this was, because I'm a family practitioner and I give and order vaccines all the time. I mean, pretty much with kids, that was really what you do mostly. You vaccinate them, well checks, keep moving. And I never really questioned it until looking at this. And then from perspective of a practitioner, I'm like, oh my goodness, how many injuries have I myself caused? You know, this this is happening worldwide, not just in my town, Gary, Indiana, where I practice, but worldwide. How much damage have I caused? Now, at the time we did our segment, I hadn't told anybody, but I was pregnant. And so, approaching it as a new mom, this is going to be my first baby, what am I going to do with vaccinations? What am I going to do when I'm approached? Now, I come from a family where my dad's a doctor, my brother's a doctor, my sister's a doctor, and they pretty much feel like most physicians do. The vaccines were put here to help people. And Rachel, how could you not vaccinate your child? But after listening to all the moms and all the dads and just seeing how much trauma has been caused by some of these vaccines, I made the decision not to vaccinate my child. And you know, when I, as you could see, you know, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to tell them I'm not doing it. And really, that's my conversation with my patients. My patients know I love them. They know I care about them. So, and really, the best thing that I can do is tell them, well, I've looked at the data. I can't sit and take the data and break it down for everybody all the time, but I can tell them what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And I've made the conscious decision, been through medical school, I'm a board-certified family practitioner, that for my family, vaccination is not the thing right now.
Wow. So how is your baby doing? Because a lot of people think, oh my God, if you don't vaccinate your baby as soon as they're born, you're really going to have problems.
Oh my goodness. And you know what everybody says about my baby? She's 9 weeks now, and everybody's always like, she's so alert, she's so calm, she's grabbing at things, she's doing things that pretty much the textbook says that she shouldn't be doing for maybe another month now. She's trying to sit up, she's trying to hold her bottle, you know, she thinks she's talking, she's like blah, 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 blah every morning, you know, she's smiling. She was smiling after her first week of being here. Everyone's like, well, wait a minute, she's not supposed to be smiling yet. And what I've noticed from other parents that I'm meeting who've made this decision not to vaccinate their child, they have very similar stories. They just have very calm, kind of advanced children, and you know, my heart goes out to the parents who didn't have this information and who are suffering and really trying to deal with the vaccine injuries. And you know, it's almost like a level of guilt that you have, because you're like, wait a minute, I've been giving vaccines and now I'm not giving one to my child. As a matter of fact, at the hospital, it was like, I had security, you know, we were like, you are not taking the baby, and she is not getting vaccinated. So it's yeah, I don't even know.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Just to quickly introduce Tony Bark, someone that's been a crusader on this for a very long time. You want just a quick, just give him a little shout about who you are and what you do.
I don't know, for those of you who don't know who I am a local physician. I have a private practice in Evanston, but I was the pediatric emergency room director at Michael Reese Hospital. For those local Chicagoans who know that hospital. Yeah, so I trained in peds and I trained in rehab and I was director of the ER. And, you know, in med school I was led to believe that this is what we do, but, you know, it was also the 80s and it was a lot. The amount of vaccines were much lower. We never vaccinated pregnant women, we never vaccinated newborns, we never vaccinated preemies or sick kids. I mean, those things are all, that's not the case anymore. So anyway, I'm co-producer of the film Bought, which is also about whistleblower stories that I uncovered during my graduate medical program in 2010 to 2012. And I am a big Andrew Wakefield supporter, and I've just been a fan of his work since I was, you know, since I discovered him. And yeah, and I just think this film is so important. It's really so important that the right people see it. I mean, everyone should see it, but boy, I really wish that, you know, most physicians and nurses and politicians could bother to take the time and come and see this film.
Questions. I think a lot of you probably want to get to the questions, so please try and keep it to one question and refrain from making, you know, long statements about your perception of vaccines. Something, if you want to do that, we'll certainly take that information outside, but we really like to try and get in as many questions as possible. So, right there, stand up, yeah.
Hi, Dr. Wakefield, I actually went to a Deep Autism Now conference about 18 years ago, and you were extremely instrumental in helping me with my son at the time, even after you were vilified. So thank you for making this film. Because my son is now living independently in California and recovered, but it took a lot of work. So my question is, I have a younger brother who just had a child. She's 5 months old, and I'm sort of the quack in the family, and I'm trying to figure out a way to give them a cautionary tale and maybe give them some guidance about what they can do right now. I'm not sure that they can get those single vaccines in the United States. So is there some other way that they can maybe...
Whereabouts is your brother?
He lives up in Glencoe, so maybe he can see you.
Okay, the first thing that he needs to do, he needs to see this film. He and his wife
Yeah.
need to see this film. That's
Yeah.
far and away the most important, because then that sets your mind on the road to inquiry. You want to know more. You realize that you've been lied to. You want to know more. If he's resistant, and this goes for anyone in the room, if someone you feel needs to be here watching this film, and that goes for everybody, the people who don't know, don't care, don't think it's their problem, agnostic, they need to be here, because this is the people, the audience for whom this film was made. You do this, you say, I will give you $100 to go and see this movie if you promise that when you come out, you are honest, and you tell me that you are unchanged in your view, that you are the same person that went in. And I promise you, you will save your $100. And believe me, that works. So the first thing to get him on the right journey is to watch this movie. There are some excellent books out there, Mark Vaxxed, Dan Olmsted's Vaccines 2.0, for those who want to go deeper into it. Suzanne Humphrey's Dissolving Illusions, but there are some very good books out there. Get educated. When we got involved in this, there was very little information. Now there is no excuse for new parents not to find out the truth.
And you can check out Bot online, can't you?
Well,
So Bot's
Bot's
another
been
great
free
movie.
online for a long time. I think it's still free, but it's free every other week. Really.
What I would also do as well is tell him to look at the inserts for the vaccines, because I had no idea when I took Billy in that there was anything in there that could, anything like there is in there. I had no idea at all. So to do that, and also tell him the other thing I didn't know is if my son gets damaged or his baby gets damaged, no one's liable for that except for you. No one's going to help you. No one's going to give you any money. No one's going to do it. You are left on your own with a very damaged child, and tell them it will affect all of the family. It will destroy everything. Marriage, money, the lot.
Hi, thank you. My name's Wendy Golder Hermes, and my 2 daughters, as children, were patients of Dr. Barks in Evanston. They both had different vaccine damage issues. I was fortunate, they're not on the autism spectrum, but they did have autoimmune, prolonged nocturnal vomiting for a year, severe bleeding, eczema, the gambit. My question is, until measles mania of 2015, I worked in local progressive politics in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. This issue, unfortunately, is so politicized right now between you're a flat earther, you want to religiously persecute people, you don't believe in climate change. Our issue, our cause is getting lumped up and rolled into other things. So as messengers, as powerful messengers, and I've been following this journey on Periscope since Tribeca. It's an honor to see all of you here, all 5 of you here. How do you, as messengers of this message, try to unravel this right-left political tag that every issue goes in? How can I, as a progressive and someone who is not religious, how do I move forward?
This is exactly the issue I had.
Yeah.
I grew up a progressive liberal my whole life, Boulder, Colorado, now living in Los Angeles. I was shocked. And one of the things I do is you have to sort of make the connection. And here's how I do it. When I have one of my friends that's screaming in my face about vaccines, this actually happened in an office at work, I said, well, hold on a second. Weren't you and I standing side by side at Whole Foods signing, a petition to label GMOs? Yeah. Why were you doing that? I'm just curious. And they say, well, because I think GMOs are bad for you. I was like, that's interesting, because you realize that the FDA and the CDC and almost every scientific body says they're perfectly safe. And they said, well, I don't believe that. Oh, that's interesting.